Deadpool has always been associated with the X-Men, to the point where when Fox bought the rights to the X-Men, they also got Deadpool. But the problem is, have you ever seen an X-Men team that has Deadpool on it? No, you really haven't, but that doesn't mean Deadpool has not worked directly with or alongside the X-Men in the past, and it doesn't mean that he's not back on the X-Men in the current X-Force book. But in order to talk about that, I'm going to have to explain Deadpool and his history with mutant kind and the X-Men as a whole. And before we get into it, don't forget to check out our sponsor, GamerSupps. They're funding a lot of these extra videos, these kinds of things. So if you enjoy these kinds of videos of me recapping the history of your favorite characters and where they are now in comics, then check out our sponsor, GamerSupps. It's an energy drink that is less chalky than its competitors, and they also have non-caffeinated versions, which, trust me, I've been drinking a lot of recently. They've also got things like the Waifu Cups, which you can see I'm wearing the hoodie for at the moment. As you can tell, I'm a fan of this brand. Anyway, click the link down below to go to GamerSupps and use the code COMICS at checkout to get yourself a discount. And let's go ahead and get into our discussion about Deadpool and the X-Men. Now let's kick it off at the very, very beginning of Deadpool. And no, this isn't going to be a 3-hour-long video where I go through the entire history of Deadpool. Dan, the editor of this, who just had a little bit of a heart attack when I said, let's go over the entire history of Deadpool. I guarantee you my editor in the back right now was just like, what did he just say? And immediately looked down at the audio and was like, how long is this video? That's exactly what he just did in the back, okay? We're not doing that, but we are going to go back to Deadpool's origin. Now, Deadpool's origin does fluctuate quite a bit, and because of this, that's why his relationship directly with the X-Men is kind of in flux. In terms of the comic books, Deadpool was introduced originally as a villain to the X-Men. He was fighting against Cable and other individuals. It was an Uncanny X-Men or Uncanny X-Force. I have the issue in the other room, the actual issue of Deadpool's first appearance, but he showed up as a mercenary. And the writer, Rob Liefeld, wanted to connect him to Wolverine. So his actual origin is that he was a part of Team X, or Weapon X, as many of us know the project to be. I think the way it boils down to is that they are Team X, but Weapon X is technically Wolverine, but Wolverine's origin also gets altered and changed and multiplied in all kinds of different ways. At one point, there was the Weapon X Plus program, and then there was the Weapon X 11, 12, 13 programs. Long story short, that program, Deadpool was technically a part of it. Now, one consistent in his origin is that he was a U.S. Special Forces individual who didn't make the cut and in response went to Canada. He was diagnosed with cancer, a very fast evolving cancer that was going to rapidly kill his body. Team X, or Weapon X, whatever they are, decided that they would implant a healing factor into his body. Now, this is one of the first inconsistencies that comes up with Deadpool. Depending on the story, Deadpool was given a healing factor similar to Wolverine's, or he was given Wolverine's healing factor through their experiments. Depending on what story you read, that's kind of how it's worded, and it could be taken in any kind of context how strong his healing factor is. Well, his healing factor then reacted with his body's genes and his cancerous cells to go crazy and instantly heal everything. But because of this, Deadpool's in a constant state of pain because it's always healing his cancer, which is what created the tumorous look across his entire body. Now, this is another one of the things that kind of gets tossed around, and this is why his relationship with the X-Men is kind of in flux. So some stories state that he had a mutant ability to begin with, and that when they implanted Wolverine or gave him the healing factor, it kind of like exemplified it, like made it crazy, and that's how it got to where it is. While other versions of the story state that he had no mutant power before the Weapon X program, and that they gave him a mutant power through the program. Once again, his story kind of gets a little fluctuaty and kind of changes around here and there, but at the end of the day, he was in Weapon X with Wolverine, Sabretooth, Maverick, all those guys, and he was basically the guy that can heal, getting a healing factor from Wolverine or being given to him by the scientists within the Weapon X program. That is always a consistent, that those are the factors that always stay there. But this now brings up the question. If he had powers before getting the healing factor, he's technically a mutant and therefore a part of the X-Men Nation. If he didn't have mutant powers before then, he's not technically a mutant and therefore not a part of the X-Men. On top of that, the X-Men don't like Deadpool because he is a villain to them. He was in the early days, and he's kind of a villain across the entire Marvel Universe. Now, this is where another problem crops up, because the X-Men are known for taking in their villains. How many times have you seen them working with Magneto, or Sabretooth, or Mystique? But they don't want to work with Deadpool. Deadpool's always had a stigma amongst the X-Men where they just don't want to be friends or be a part of Deadpool's life, and they don't want him over there. And Marvel has kind of treated Deadpool as an ancillary X-Men character. Sure, he works with Wolverine and he works with Cable, but that's not his normal status quo, except for that one book where he worked with Cable for a very long time. No, his normal status quo is that he's the merc with the mouth, the fourth wall breaking character who messes with most of the entire Marvel universe, has a weird obsession with Spider-Man and Wolverine, and knows that he's not welcome in the whatever the X-Men are doing at the time. But that doesn't mean that he has not joined the X-Men. There are 2 individual times before the current one that he has joined the X-Men. Now, the first one happened in 2009 in Deadpool number 15. And this is kind of one of my favorite stories involving Deadpool joining up with the X-Men. So basically, he approached the X-Men because he felt like he needed to belong somewhere. He was off doing his solo adventures, and he felt like the one thing he needed in his life was acceptance by some group of individuals. Being a mutant, through experimentation or having it initially, he decided that he should go join the X-Men. The X-Men at this time had an island all to themselves, known as Utopia. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Kind of like Krakoa? Anyway, they had an entire island to themselves known as Utopia. And he approached them and said, "Hey, Cyclops, crazy Deadpool here, can I join your team?" Cyclops immediately told him no, tried to get rid of him, wanted nothing to do with Deadpool. But it's Wolverine who brought up, if we let Deadpool on the X-Men, kind of in an ancillary position, not official, but he's kind of here on Utopia, we can keep tabs on Deadpool and he won't become a problem for us. Cyclops begrudgingly agrees with that, and Deadpool is an official, unofficial X-Men at this time. If I remember correctly, they worded it as he's on trial or he's on like probation, like they're testing him out. They're going to see if he should be an X-Men. The story arc then proceeds to go on in which Deadpool runs off and does his own thing. Now, while Deadpool's doing his own thing, the X-Men are dealing with a corrupt politician who's trying to turn the government and the people against the X-Men, calling them basically evil and all kinds of stuff. Basically what the X-Men normally deal with, a white supremacist who wants to get rid of this oddball race of human beings who are able to use crazy powers. It's kind of what the X-Men always deal with. It's their big thing. Well, we had another politician like that. Long story short, a lot of things happen, but Deadpool comes to the conclusion that if he kills the politician, the X-Men are free. And he'll just kill that politician, so this won't be a problem for the X-Men. Obviously, the X-Men want nothing to do with the fact that he's trying to kill the politician. So after creating his own X-Men suit, the one that you see in a lot of images that are floating around, Deadpool gets into action representing the X-Men to kill this politician for them. He lines up to take the sniper shot. They stop him once, they stop him twice. This leads to a giant fight between Deadpool and the X-Men, while Deadpool's trying to explain, "I'm just trying to help. Let me take care of this for you. I'll prove I'll be a good X-Man." All of this is going on with Wolverine filming it on a television camera. He's just filming the whole thing, the X-Men fighting against Deadpool. The X-Men eventually defeat Deadpool, and they're now praised as heroes for saving the politician that was trying to persecute them. What we then find out is that all of this was actually manipulated by Deadpool to basically put the X-Men in a position where they're revered as heroes for saving the one that was trying to persecute them. And it basically throws the entire congressman's stuff out the window. I don't actually know if he's a congressman. He was some kind of politician or mayor or somebody running for office. I want to clarify that real quick. I don't know what role they gave him, but he was in the standard role that goes against the X-Men, inciting violence against mutants. So anyway, so at the end of all of this, when it's kind of revealed, Wolverine figures out that Deadpool had been manipulating all of this so that the X-Men would appear to be heroes. Deadpool walks off feeling like he accomplished something, and he feels a bit of acceptance from Wolverine. And that's kind of where his adventures with the direct X-Men ended. That's as far as he ever got. Cyclops declared that he would never work with Deadpool again. And to this day, Marvel has stuck to that, which I find very weird because they change everything in the entire laws of the comic books. But what we've kept to is that Cyclops will never work with Deadpool. That's the continuity we want to hold on to. You know, let's not keep Spider-Man's marriage. Let's not keep Wolverine working with X-23. No, let's keep Cyclops and Deadpool are never going to work together. That's what we're going to hold on to there. So that led to about 2014. Wolverine's making a brand new team, and this is one of my favorite runs in comics. Rick Remender's X-Force. Now, Uncanny X-Force, Wolverine is making a team. The team needs to do things that the X-Men cannot be seen doing. So Wolverine decides he's going to make a Black Ops group. Black Ops X-Men, to go out and do Black Ops X-Men kind of things. So who does he recruit to this team? Archangel, Deadpool, Psylocke, and Fantomex, or Phantomex, however you want to pronounce it. I get yelled at all the time, but it's Fantomex, and I can't think of anything that he's actually showed up in to give us a pronunciation that is proper, but I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, Phantomex is how I'm going to say it going forward. These individuals are the Black Ops X-Men team, and their first job, the job that the X-Men can never be seen doing, they have to go kill a child. So Apocalypse at some point died, came back as a child. That child was then abducted by a cult, and they're trying to indoctrinate him to be Apocalypse. So this child is evil, twisted, demented, the whole 9 yards. The problem is, Deadpool does have a moral code. Even if you don't realize it, there are some things that Deadpool just won't do. One of those being killing a child. So the team goes off, they've got to kill this child. Deadpool's the one that has the gun to the child's head. He's the one that has to pull the trigger, but he can't do it. This is too much for him. This is the line that will mess him up, break him down, and make him regret every one of his life's choices. And Fantomex comes over and actually takes the shot. Uncle Cluster, as you'll come to know him later in this story. He shoots the kid Apocalypse, and they kill a child. Now, this deeply scars Deadpool. Throughout the run of this comic, all of the characters, Archangel, the eventual Age of Apocalypse Nightcrawler they get on the team, Psylocke, they're all dealing with the fact that this team killed a child. And they go on a bunch of other crazy adventures, which turns this into my favorite run of comics. Probably in general, honestly, like ever. This might be my favorite run ever. Maybe in contention with Batman No Man's Land, but that's a different story. But at least in the world of X-Men, my favorite run ever. Eventually, you discover that Fantomex took the blood of Kid Apocalypse and brought it to this place known as the World. Now, the World is weird, and I don't fully understand it because they use it in a lot of these weird storylines, but from what I have gathered and what I've cared to look up, the World is literally a world on the planet that moves at a different temporal time stream. Thousands of years will happen in the world in the span of like 10 minutes in the real world. It's like a simulated universe, but in that simulated universe, there's an entire civilization, there are people, there are mutants, and because they're moving at 1,000 years every tick or whatever we're gonna go by, they're super highly advanced. Well, Fantomex took Kid Apocalypse's blood, created a new body for him, and put him in the world. The idea was nurture versus nature. If no one is forcing Kid Apocalypse to become Apocalypse, will he become Apocalypse? Or will he become just another child mutant that has the abilities that he shouldn't, and we can teach him like every other kid mutant in the world of X-Men? No one knows that Fantomex did this until we get to a storyline that basically boils down to them going into the world, fighting against an evil Archangel, they fight against Nightcrawler betraying them, a whole bunch of stuff happens, but we discover a kid named Evan is in the world, and he has been growing up, and he has been being taught how to be a proper person, good person, like everything that's right and wrong and all this kinds of stuff, and it turns out he's Kid Apocalypse. Deadpool eventually comes across Kid Apocalypse and decides that this is his redemption. He's gonna basically raise Evan. Evan's going to be his kid. Now, in the timeline of Deadpool at this time, Deadpool was hugely popular in the comic books, and they were trying all kinds of different things with him. He also had a daughter at this time. So basically, Deadpool was like, I'm going to raise my daughter, I'm going to raise Evan, and we're going to do all this happy-go-lucky stuff. Well, of course, this is Uncanny X-Force. It can't go well for Deadpool. We then get brought up to the problem of they bring Evan out of the world. They put Evan into the Jean Grey School of Learning, which is the X-Men school for kids. And then he gets kidnapped. He gets kidnapped by Daken, Wolverine's child, and a couple other villains who really aren't like super important to my overarching story I'm trying to tell you here. Really important to Uncanny X-Force, but not to what I'm trying to tell you here. Anyway, Evan gets brought to them where they explained that Fantomex, aka Uncle Cluster, is the one that killed the original Kid Apocalypse, then cloned him to make him his own soldier. Now, the last part was made up by the villains. Fantomex was never going to make Evan a bad guy. He just wanted Evan to grow up. So they basically get Evan convinced that he's going to turn into Apocalypse, and Deadpool and Uncle Cluster are going to have to kill him again. This leads to the Uncanny X-Force breaking into the building. They go through a whole bunch of stuff. Bad stuff happens to Nightcrawler, bad stuff happens to Mystique, and bad stuff happens to Psylocke, and that's all in that story. All of that link is down below if you want to hear all that. But what it boils down to is Deadpool decides he's going to try and save Evan while people are telling him that he can't save Evan. Evan will grow up to be Apocalypse. Deadpool just has to kill this child again. He has to do it. Deadpool takes the gun, he points it at Evan's head. Evan is crying. I'm trying to remember this and I might be wrong. Evan is crying, asking him not to, or at least confused what he's doing. And Deadpool pulls the trigger on a child. only for us to discover he shot past Evan and saved Evan's life. And he grabs Evan and he runs him out of the building, and they're running, and he's trying to get Kid Apocalypse away, and he is everything. He is getting shot, caught up. He is taking every bullet. He is trying to save this child. He will be the X-Man that he wants to be, the hero, the superhero. And he does it. He gets him out. Now, the events of this comic, Wolverine has to fight Daken. Phantom X ends up getting killed for all of his crimes, but he comes back to life in 3 different versions. And Deadpool has a relationship with this child for quite a few years before the writers just kind of forgot they were supposed to be friends. Over in Deadpool's book, whenever he would run into a problem, he'd go to Evan and be like, Evan, help me out, because Evan's Kid Apocalypse. He has all these crazy powers. But Deadpool redeems himself in the end. But the whole trauma, everything that he went through, was so jarring for even Deadpool that they kind of disbanded and he left at the same time. But Uncanny X-Force broke up the group at that point. Wolverine had to kill his own kid. Deadpool almost had to kill a kid. Phantom X died and came back to life as 3 individuals. The story was over. And that was it. Deadpool was officially half an X-Man to begin with, became a member of the Black Ops group, and that was as far as his relationship with the X-Men ever went. As a matter of fact, when Jonathan Hickman started the Krakoa era of X-Men, he actually made it a point to not put Deadpool on any of those teams. What he did instead was Deadpool went off in his own storyline where he was the King of Monsters, and then Jonathan Hickman had that run end, and Deadpool just disappeared. He appeared in a manga for a little while and now has recently gotten his own comic book back. But that brings us to the story of Deadpool now being back on the X-Men. So in Wolverine issue number 20, Deadpool takes over the comic book. He decides that he misses being on a team. He misses working with Wolverine. He's going to find Wolverine, and he's going to get them to accept him. He's going to get back on the team. He's going to be a part of the X-Men/X-Force all over again. So the issue is about 4 issues long, and we're going to be covering in here on the channel like in 2-3 weeks, maybe a month from now. But what Deadpool does is he shows up and he's trying to prove to Wolverine that they should be buddies again. Remember the good times, Wolverine? Remember us teaming up? We could do all that again. Why don't you let me join you? So the first couple of issues, what he ends up doing is trying to prove to Wolverine that he's worth taking back. And Wolverine's like, go away, bub. I want nothing to do with you, bub. You got to get out of my face, bub. Deadpool, we don't want you on the X-Men. He's very adamantly just being a jerk. And this is in the Wolverine comic where he's kind of a jerk in general, but we have seen his softer side. But he's just being a jerk to Deadpool. They end up fighting a bunch of LMD robot versions of the X-Men. And in order to escape, Deadpool does his body slide thing and like teleports them away. This is his way to prove to Wolverine that he is an asset, that he can teleport them out of the situation. And all that does is sticks them in a cell by mistake. I forget exactly what happened, but the villains messed it up or Deadpool messed it up. Somebody messed it up. They ended up in a cell together. And this is where it kind of gets sad and dark for Deadpool. And you look at how desperate Deadpool really is to join Wolverine, to just be friends with someone. Like, it really kind of tugs at the heartstrings because he's sitting there and he realizes he's messed up. He realizes that this isn't going to work out and he's still begging to be on the team. And Wolverine takes a very Wolverine turn on this whole thing. Wolverine decides to get out of the jail cell. He's going to cut Deadpool in pieces because Deadpool can still survive. So the first thing he does is cuts Deadpool up, throws him through the bars, and he wants Deadpool to open up the cage, telling him that they're going to be a team. You wanted to work together, Deadpool. This is how we're going to work together. The upper torso of Deadpool drags himself on the ground to the switch for the cages, releases it, and the panel still stands out. Wolverine gets out and blitzes. He's like, I'm out. I gotta go. And Deadpool's just like, I thought we were a team. Like, I thought we were going to team up. And he just leaves him sad, hanging as this bloodied torso of Deadpool who just wants to be friends with Wolverine. Wolverine then comes back, grabbing the husk of Deadpool, and he throws him into the car to drive the car while Wolverine uses it, catapults, he crashes the car, killing Deadpool again. Deadpool can come back to life, that's fine, but he crushes Deadpool, who just wants to be a teammate, and he launches himself off the car. Eventually, their adventure coming to an end, Deadpool's healing, and Deadpool accepts that Wolverine doesn't want to work with him. Like, he's really sad at this point in the book. He just wanted to have a friend. That's all Deadpool wanted. He wanted a friend. He missed his friends in X-Force. And it's like really touching. Like, I'm almost getting misty-eyed thinking about how sad Deadpool was making it out to be. And then we get to the end of that book, and Wolverine's like, we got to go see X-Force. Come on. And Deadpool's back on X-Force. Now, I thought this was going to be a one-off. Like, this is it. Deadpool's not really on X-Force because my dreams would come true if we get a book where Wolverine's working with Deadpool again. But it happened. Issue 30 of X-Force has Deadpool on the cover, and it's looped into the Axe event, so I actually didn't read that one because I wasn't reading a lot of the tie-ins for Axe. Sorry, I skipped 31 Axe, 32 Axe, 34, they're out of the Axe event. Deadpool's still on the cover, and Deadpool's a part of it. Now, he doesn't get a lot of lines, but he's in the book, which means that Deadpool is an X-Man again, which means Marvel's no longer ignoring him again. We've got Deadpool brought back and combined with Carnage over in the Deadpool comic books now that have just launched. We're on issue like 2 or 3 by the time you watch this video. And we've got Uncanny X-Force. I think it's just called X-Force again. Deadpool's over there on that team as well. So if you want to see amazing storylines, first go read Wolverine. But if you want to see Deadpool come back and he's back on the team, X-Force is your book. That's what this whole video is about. I wanted to let you know that Deadpool's back on an X-Men team and he's in the X-Force book. He has his own solo comic, and that Wolverine is one hell of a book and worth reading. So I definitely recommend it. Now, Wolverine, Deadpool, and all these books are going to be covered here in the channel, so don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let me know if you like these kinds of videos. Right now, I'm also working on what the problem is with Damian Wayne, what the problem is with Nightwing, Marvel versus DC, what's stronger, what's weaker. I'm also working on my manga versus American comic book videos, but I'm trying to wait for that one to be tied in more to our relaunch of Mangastorian that you can find down below, where I make videos like this about my favorite manga moments, and we discuss things going on in the world of manga and anime. But check out all of that stuff if you guys do, and if you do like these kinds of videos, I really need your support. Let me know in the comments down below. Just like, Benny, I like this. I like the way you recap this. You told me the issues. If you don't, let me know. And don't worry, you're getting like 2 to 3 full stories a week, and you're getting at least 1 normal complete story a week. Those aren't going away. I'm just trying to have more fun. So thank you guys. I'll see you next time.